the execution platform. The cold was everywhere. It pressed against Cale Arden from all sides, sharper than any blade he had faced. The wind cut across the vast arena, carrying a smell of damp fur and charged metal, a strange, alien scent that made the hair on his arms rise. He kept his gaze forward, refusing to show fear to the tens of thousands of eyes watching him. Cale's wrists were bound behind him in thick amber cuffs, glowing faintly in the sunlight. They were designed to break bones before yielding, a primitive but effective design. He had tested them already in the dark, echoing cell where he had been held for 3 days. Now, standing on the obsidian execution platform, a massive slab of volcanic glass in the center of the arena, he felt every eye on him. From the far wall of the arena, Lady Silvara appeared. She floated down the carved steps of her dais, a figure of silver and ice. Her armor reflected the sunlight like polished metal, forming sharp lines across her powerful frame. Long silver hair fell freely down her back, and 2 pointed, furred ears rose from her head, swiveling to catalogue the audience. At her side, her daughter Lyra clung to her small hand, wrapped in white furs. The child's blue eyes met Cale's instantly. No fear, only curiosity. Behind her, Vorin, the scarred enforcer, stepped forward. His black armor was harsh and brutal, a stark contrast to Silvara's flowing silver form. He carried a metallic scroll, his voice amplified by some unseen technology. The being known as Cale Arden, he boomed, is found guilty of trespass, murder, and chaos upon this world. By the law of the cat hen, his life is forfeit. Cale said nothing. He had heard these words before, many times in his life, but never with such finality. His jaw tightened as he remembered the 6 warriors who had tried to kill him and his partner. Cale had made them pay. Every life lost under his hand had been justice in his mind, and now the sentence was death. The execution is to proceed, Silvara declared, her voice clear, cold, and carrying across the massive arena. A giant figure stepped forward. Raxer, the executioner, easily 8 feet tall. His skin marked with ritual scars, activated a double-headed energy glaive. The weapon hummed, a low, hungry sound that made the hairs on Cale's neck stand on end. Cale's eyes darted across the platform, counting guards, noting their weapons, measuring distances. There was no way out. Not yet, but he refused to kneel. Raxer lifted the glaive, a swing designed to sever and cauterize in one motion. Cale's body tensed. Then he saw it. A flicker, almost invisible, a shimmer in the air near the general. An assassin moved, clad in dark tactical gear, lunging past the crowd toward the child. Instinct took over. Cale roared, a sound of pure defiance, and his muscles coiled with adrenaline. With a scream of effort, he dislocated his left shoulder, the pain exploding through his body, and tore against the amber cuffs. They shattered in a dozen pieces. He dropped from the platform in a flat dive, 20 feet to the stone floor below, rolling through the impact. Pain shot through his shoulder, but it was nothing compared to the stakes. Guards at the base of the platform froze, weapons half-raised, unable to comprehend what they were seeing. Cale vaulted over them, sprinting low, every step calculated. He closed the distance to the assassin in seconds. The fight was brutal. The assassin, Draven, moved faster than any human, but Cale was stronger and more unpredictable. He tackled Draven to the ground, rolling across the stone. Sparks flew as energy blades clashed, scorching Cale's skin. He drove a knee into Draven's midsection and smashed the heel of his palm into his throat. The alien coughed, gasped, but Cale didn't stop. He twisted the blade from Draven's grip and ended the fight with a single, decisive strike. The arena fell silent. The wind carried the sound of Cale's heavy breathing over the stone floor. The child, Lyra, stared up at him, her blue eyes wide, unafraid. Slowly, she took 2 deliberate steps and clung to his leg. Cale looked up to see Silvara descending from her dais. The silver guard around her froze as she raised a single gauntlet hand. Slowly, she lowered her weapon, her piercing gaze on Cale. "You have saved the child," she said. Her voice was a low vibration, felt in Kale's chest more than heard. The law of life debt is sacred. Your execution is void. You are mine now. Kale, bloodied and exhausted, rose to his feet. His body screamed in pain, but he stood tall, the weight of his dislocated shoulder and torn muscles insignificant compared to what he had just done. The silver guard seized his arms, but he refused to be dragged. Pain and adrenaline mixed, but Kale planted his feet and walked on his own, guided not by the crowd or the law, but by his new purpose. He was led from the arena, not to a cell, but up into the towering command spire. The hallways echoed with his steps as armored soldiers and alien aristocrats stopped in shock. Kale, once condemned to die, now carried the mark of Silvara, a symbol of his new life. In the high-tech medical bay he was assessed, treated, and fitted with new gear. Every movement reminded him of his humanity, but also of the alien law he now served. Kale was no longer a prisoner. He was a vassal guard, a protector of the child who had unknowingly changed his destiny. As he stood, ready to face whatever would come next, Kale understood one truth. He had survived the execution platform, but the real test had only just begun. The arena, empty now, echoed with silence. Outside, the wind swept across the obsidian stone. Kale Arden had faced death and lived. The executioner approaches. The platform shivered under Kale Arden's weight. Even as his broken shoulder screamed in agony, his eyes were fixed on the figure stepping forward. Raxer, the executioner, moved with terrifying precision. 8 feet of muscle and ritual scars. The alien's every step seemed to press down on the obsidian stone like the weight of judgment itself. Raxer's double-headed glaive hummed as he lifted it, a low, almost hungry sound that made Kale's stomach tighten. The weapon glowed at the edges with searing energy, capable of slicing and cauterizing flesh in a single swing. Kale's mind worked faster than ever, calculating angles, distances, and reactions. He was no longer thinking about escape. He was thinking about survival. The arena was alive with noise. Thousands of alien eyes watched, teeth bared in anticipation. Some leaned forward, others pressed against the railing, claws gripping the edge of the stands. Kale felt the alien scrutiny like a physical weight pressing against him, but he refused to flinch. He had faced death before. This would not be the one to end him. From the far side, Lady Silvara watched, her eyes piercing through the crowd like ice through steel. Her armor glinted in the sun, silver plates forming lethal lines across her frame. Beside her, Lyra's small hands clutched the edges of her white fur coat. The child's gaze never left Kale. Fearless, curious, innocent, and completely unafraid of the danger that had just cost Kale so much pain. Vorin, the scarred enforcer, stepped forward once more. He raised his voice, amplified by strange alien devices. "Kale Arden," he bellowed. "You are condemned by the sacred law. You trespassed upon this world. You killed 6 of our warriors. Your life is forfeit. Let the executioner proceed." Kale didn't respond. Words were useless now. He had one chance, one moment, and every fiber of his body was attuned to it. Raxer's glaive swung in a low, deliberate arc, the air sizzling where energy cut through it. The guards at the base of the platform shifted, weapons ready, but Kale's eyes weren't on them. His focus was on the movement at the edge of the arena. A shimmer in the air, a figure cloaked in black, an assassin, Draven. He moved like a shadow, impossibly fast, aiming for the child. Kale's body reacted before his mind could catch up. He roared, a sound that cut through the alien crowd like a battle horn. Pain and adrenaline intertwined in a brutal symphony inside him. He lunged, throwing himself at Draven with every ounce of strength. The executioner swung again, but Kale twisted, rolling under the deadly arc of the glaive. Sparks of energy hissed as the blade cut the air mere inches from him. The first strike hit the platform beside him with a thunderous clang, sending vibrations through Kale's feet. He scrambled, a flash of human instinct guiding him toward the child. Draven lunged again, blade vibrating, aiming for Lyra. Kale slammed into him, a brutal full-body tackle that sent both of them tumbling across the polished obsidian floor. The crowd gasped, the arena holding its breath. Kale's body screamed in pain as he twisted, grabbed the assassin's wrist, and snapped the weapon from his grip. Draven's own momentum worked against him. Kale drove his knee into the alien's midsection, then slammed the heel of his palm into the gap between Draven's helmet and armor. The assassin choked, struggling, but Kale didn't pause. Every motion was survival, every breath a declaration. When the fight ended, Kale was on his knees, chest heaving, covered in sweat and blood. Draven lay unmoving at his feet, and there she was, Lyra, the child. She had taken 2 deliberate steps and clung to Kale's leg. The silence that followed was complete. The wind swept across the arena, carrying dust and the faint scent of ozone. The crowd, expecting the end of a human life, had been robbed of their spectacle. Their predator's gaze turned to shock, confusion, and awe. Silvara descended the few steps from her dais. Every movement was deliberate, precise, and impossible to ignore. The silver guard around her tensed, rifles at the ready, but she held up a single gauntlet hand. Slowly, each weapon lowered. Kale felt her presence like a physical force pressing down, overwhelming even the pain in his shoulder. Silvara stopped in front of him, just close enough that he had to tilt his head back to meet her gaze. Her eyes blazed like frozen flames, piercing into him, measuring him, claiming him. "You have saved the child," she said. Her voice low but powerful, vibrating through the stone and into Kale's chest. "By law, the life debt is sacred. Your execution is void. From this moment, you are bound to me." Kale rose slowly, every movement measured, every step a testament to human resilience. His shoulder burned, his arms screamed, but he stood taller than ever. He was no longer a prisoner. He was a vassal guard, a protector. The guards seized him to escort him from the arena, but Kale planted his feet and refused to be dragged. His defiance, raw and human, carried more weight than any weapon. Step by step, he was led away from the platform, away from the screams and roars of thousands of alien eyes, up into the towering command spire. The corridors echoed with his footsteps. Soldiers and aristocrats alike froze as he passed. Kale had been condemned, broken, and yet here he walked, alive, defiant, and newly claimed by Silvara. In the medical bay, his wounds were treated with alien precision. His dislocated shoulder was forced back into place. His cuts and bruises stabilized with strange, advanced devices. He wore the insignia of Silvara now, a constant reminder that his life was no longer his own. As Kale stood, recovering, he realized one truth. Surviving the executioner was only the beginning. The real trials had yet to come, and the alien world around him was far more dangerous than he had imagined. Outside the reinforced windows, the vast city sprawled below. Obsidian spires rose into the sky, illuminated by alien energy lines and floating crafts. Kale's gaze lingered on the horizon. He had survived death, but now he had a new purpose, a new life, and the stakes had never been higher. The execution platform, once a place of certain death, now felt like the first step into a far larger battle. And Kale Arden, the human who defied all odds, was ready to face it. White heavy checkmark key features in Part 2. Focus on the fight against Draven, building tension and action. Shows Kale's resourcefulness and human resilience. HFY theme. Sets up his new role as vassal guard. Audience-friendly, simple English, cinematic pacing for YouTube narration. Ends with a sense of suspense and anticipation for the next part. Breaking the unbreakable. Kale Arden's body burned with pain. His shoulder throbbed like it was on fire, and every movement sent sharp jolts through his arms and back. But there was no time to think about pain. The child, Lyra, was still in danger, and the arena waited, hungry for the end of the human. He crouched low, scanning the platform. Guards were everywhere, weapons raised, eyes wide with disbelief. They had never seen a human move like this. Not fast, not brutal, not unrelenting. Kale's mind worked in precise steps, 1, 2, 3, every motion a calculation of survival. The amber cuffs that bound him had shattered, but the remnants of their design still haunted him. The resin was stronger than steel in the wrong angle, meant to snap bones rather than bend. Kale had used every ounce of human strength and every painful twist of his body to break free. The pain was sharp, unbearable, but it gave him something else. Focus. From above, the executioner, Raxer, roared and swung his double-headed glaive. Sparks flew where the energy edges cut the air, distorting the light like fire in the wind. Kale ducked low, rolling across the platform. The motion dislocated his left shoulder again, but he didn't scream. Pain was a tool now, a reminder that he was alive. Then he saw the shimmer again. The assassin, Draven, moved impossibly fast, aiming for Lyra. Kale's eyes narrowed. This was it. Every second counted. There was no hesitation. He lunged, a human missile of muscle and will, and tackled Draven from the side. They hit the stone with a brutal thud. Kale's body twisted, rolling through the impact, using the momentum to his advantage. Draven's energy blade hummed dangerously close, but Kale grabbed it, twisting until it slipped from the alien's grip. Sparks flew as the energy discharged, sizzling against Kale's armor. Kale struck with raw precision. A knee into the midsection, a palm into the soft joint beneath the helmet. Draven gasped and coughed, struggling to rise. Kale's motion was fluid, brutal, and human. A blur that no alien had expected. Within moments, the fight was over. Draven lay motionless. Kale looked down. The child, Lyra, stared at him. Her eyes, wide and unblinking, reflected awe and fearlessness. Slowly, she stepped forward and wrapped her small hands around Kale's leg. He froze, taking a moment to catch his breath. The arena, once roaring, now held a tense silence. Thousands of alien eyes were on him, not in anticipation, but in shock. Lady Silvara descended from her dais. Her silver armor glinted in the sunlight, every step precise, every motion commanding. The silver guard moved to act, but she raised a gauntlet hand. Slowly, rifles lowered. "You have saved my daughter," Silvara said, her voice cold but resonant. "By the law, your life debt is now mine. Your execution is void. You are bound to me. You belong to my service." Kale rose, his body aching, his shoulder twisted at a grotesque angle. But he stood taller than ever. For the first time in days, he felt purpose beyond survival. He was no longer just a prisoner. He was a protector, a shield, a human among aliens, stronger and braver than any of them had anticipated. The guards grabbed him to lead him away, but Kale refused. His legs burned, his body screamed, but he planted his feet firmly and walked on his own. Step by step, he was guided from the execution platform, leaving behind the obsidian stone and the whispers of the stunned audience. Through the vast halls of the spire, Kale's presence was a shock. Armored soldiers froze in his path. Aristocrats stopped mid-step, their ears flattening in disbelief. He had survived what was supposed to be impossible, and his survival changed the way the aliens saw him. At the medical bay, advanced devices and alien technology worked quickly. His dislocated shoulder was forced back into place, cuts were sealed, and bruises stabilized. Every treatment reminded Kale of the fragility of his human body, but also of its resilience. Humans bent, broke, and healed in ways alien physiology could not comprehend. Kale dressed in a new uniform, black and flexible, marked with Silvara's insignia. It was more than clothing. It was a symbol of binding, a reminder that his life now belonged to her and her child. As he stood, taking stock of the pain, the burns, and the blood, Kale realized something vital. Surviving the platform, surviving the executioner, and defeating the assassin was only the beginning. Ahead lay a life bound to alien law, alien culture, and alien expectations. Every moment would be a test of skill, courage, and human ingenuity. Outside the medical bay's reinforced windows, the city sprawled beneath him. Obsidian towers, glowing energy conduits, and alien ships weaving through the sky reminded him how far from home he truly was. Kale's survival was miraculous, but his challenges were just beginning. The execution platform, the place designed to end his life, now symbolized something else. A trial he had survived. Kale Arden, the human who had faced death and shattered impossible chains, had taken the first step into a larger world, a world where humans were underestimated, but not defeated. He clenched his fists. Pain and exhaustion were irrelevant. He had survived death itself, and now he was ready for whatever came next. The assassin's strike. Kale Arden's heart pounded in his chest like a war drum. The arena was silent now, the thousands of alien spectators frozen in disbelief. The assassin, Draven, lay motionless at Kale's feet, but the danger was far from over. Every muscle in Kale's body tensed, ready for the next threat. Lyra, the child, clung to his leg, her small hands holding on tightly. Her blue eyes were wide, reflecting awe and courage. She wasn't afraid. Not of him, not of the blood, not of the chaos around them. Kale's gaze flicked to her, seeing both innocence and determination mirrored in her eyes. He had made a choice, and now he had to defend it. From the high dais, Lady Silvara's eyes were fixed on them. Her armor gleamed like silver under the sunlight, every line sharp and commanding. She did not move, but her presence alone held the crowd and guards in check. Yet Kale knew she was watching for more than spectacle. She was measuring him, seeing if a human could survive in a world where everything was stacked against him. A movement at the edge of his vision caught Kale's attention. Fast, silent, calculated. Another assassin had slipped through the silver guard, a shadow against the obsidian platform. Kale didn't hesitate. Humans didn't wait, they reacted. Draven had been fast, but this new threat was faster, more precise. The alien's energy blade hummed, a deadly vibration that cut through the air. Kale's body moved before thought. He lunged, rolling into position, a blur of human instinct. The assassin's strike aimed for Lyra, and Kale's arm shot out, intercepting with brutal force. They collided, and Kale's weight slammed the assassin backward. Sparks flew as the energy blade met his makeshift guard. A twisted piece of Draven's own armor Kale had grabbed. Every strike was survival, every movement calculated for efficiency, not honor. Lyra whimpered but didn't cry. She clung tighter, her small hands pressing against Kale's leg. He felt a surge of determination that burned hotter than pain. This child's life had become a challenge no human could ignore. The assassin recovered, slashing again. Kale twisted, using his broken shoulder and every ounce of strength to parry. The air shimmered with energy sparks, and the alien hissed in frustration. Kale's movements were unpredictable, savage, and terrifying in their efficiency. Then, with a decisive motion, Kale grabbed the alien's wrist, twisting until the blade clattered to the stone floor. The crowd gasped. The guards were frozen, unsure if they should intervene. Kale did not stop. He drove the heel of his hand into the soft joint beneath the assassin's armor, then flipped him to the ground, pinning him in a human grip that no alien could anticipate. Lyra's gaze never left him. The child had watched death and survival in the span of a single heartbeat. And now she saw something else, trust. Kale's bloody hands, his broken body, his sheer will to survive. They were the shield she needed. The arena erupted in whispers. Thousands of predators, trained to kill and consume, were silent. The human had not only survived, they had protected the most valuable prize, the general's child. Lady Silvara stepped forward, her silver boots echoing on the stone. She stopped before the chaos, the child still clinging to Kale's leg. Slowly, she extended a gauntlet hand, and every weapon in her guard lowered. The signal was clear. The fight was over. "You have saved my daughter," Silvara said. Her voice, sharp and resonant, carried over the arena. "The life debt is sacred. Your execution is void. From this moment you are bound to me. You belong to my service." Kale, bloodied and exhausted, rose to his feet. Every part of his body screamed in pain, but he stood tall. He was no longer a prisoner. He was a shield, a vassal guard, a human who had defied death, fought impossible odds, and survived. Vorin, the scarred enforcer, seethed, his teeth bared, but he dared not speak. His plan, whatever it had been, had failed. Kale's survival, the child's safety, and Silvara's judgment had overturned everything. Lyra looked up at Kale, her small fingers brushing the blood from his armor. In that moment, trust was forged not by words but by action. Kale was human, fragile in appearance but unstoppable in will. She had chosen him as her protector, and in that choice, a new bond had begun. The Silver Guard closed in, rifles aimed, but Kale did not flinch. Silvara's command was absolute. He was no longer a target. He was an asset. The crowd held its collective breath, realizing that the human they had come to watch die had not only survived but had changed the rules of the arena. Kale turned his gaze to the horizon, through the towering spire and out over the alien city. He had survived execution, assassins, and impossible odds, but the fight was far from over. His role had changed. His life was bound to Silvara and Lyra, and the challenges of this alien world were only beginning. Pain, blood, and exhaustion weighed him down, but his spirit burned brighter than ever. Kale Arden, the human who defied death, had claimed his first victory, not for himself, but for the child who had unknowingly saved him in return. And somewhere deep in the arena, a lesson was learned by every spectator. Underestimate a human, and they will defy all odds. Lady Silvara intervenes. The arena had fallen silent. Thousands of alien eyes were fixed on Kale Arden, the human who had defied execution and survived. Lyra, the small child, clung to his leg, her blue eyes wide with awe. She had witnessed death, combat, and courage all in one terrifying moment, and she had chosen Kale as her protector. Lady Silvara descended from her silver dais, every step deliberate, echoing against the obsidian stone. Her armor gleamed in the sunlight, cold and commanding. The crowd of alien spectators stiffened. Even trained warriors sensed the shift. This was not merely a punishment or spectacle anymore. This was judgment. Kale stood, bleeding and battered, his shoulder twisted in agony. Pain coursed through him, but he refused to show it. He had fought, he had survived, and now he faced the one authority that could decide his life. Silvara stopped just a few feet away, close enough that Kale could feel her presence like a weight pressing down. Her eyes, bright as frozen fire, studied him, measuring every scar, every twitch, every beat of his chest. "You have saved my daughter," she said. Her voice was low, strong, and final. "By the laws of the cat hen, life debt is sacred. Your execution is void. From this moment you are bound to me. You belong to my service. You are my vassal guard." Kale's body stiffened, every nerve alert, bound to her service. Not a prisoner, but a shield. His life was no longer his own, yet it was a life spared, one he would have to honor with every ounce of strength. The silver guard around her moved closer, rifles at the ready, forming a protective circle around Lyra. Vorin, the scarred enforcer, glared at Kale, his jaw tight with fury. His plan had failed. His sentence had been overturned. But Silvara's decision was absolute. Lyra released her grip from Kale's leg only when Silvara signaled. The child's trust had shifted. Kale had earned it through action, not words. He had proven that even a human, fragile and underestimated, could protect what mattered most. "You will remain within 30 paces of me and my daughter at all times," Silvara commanded, her tone leaving no room for argument. "You are my shield. Nothing more, nothing less. Understand your place, human." Kale nodded, his voice a rough rasp as he spoke. "I understand." The words felt foreign in his throat, but the meaning was clear. He would obey, not out of fear, but out of purpose. He had survived the impossible. Now he had a reason to continue. Vorin stepped forward, as if to protest, but a subtle gesture from Silvara froze him. Her authority was absolute. "See to my daughter, Anya," she ordered one of the silver guards. Lyra hesitated, glancing at Kale one last time, then allowed herself to be taken back to the dais. Kale watched, every muscle tense, every sense alive. He had survived the executioner, battled assassins, and faced an entire alien arena. Now, his survival had transformed into duty. He was no longer a free human, but something far more significant. A shield, a protector, a human who had proven his worth in an alien world. The guards led him away, but Kale refused to be dragged. Each step was his own, deliberate and slow, a statement of defiance wrapped in obedience. The pain from his injuries burned, but his determination burned brighter. Through the towering corridors of the central spire, Kale's presence was a shock to all who watched. Soldiers and aristocrats froze in place as he passed. He was no longer merely a human, they had seen what a human could do. He was now part of a higher order, bound by law and by life debt, yet unstoppable in spirit. In the medical bay, advanced devices worked quickly. His dislocated shoulder was forced back into place, wounds sealed, and bruises stabilized. Kale's human body healed differently than the aliens expected. They treated him as a tool, but he was more than that. He was a living testament to human resilience, adaptability, and raw willpower. When the procedure was done, Kale dressed in a black uniform marked with Silvara's insignia. It was more than clothing, it was a declaration. He was now bound to the general and her daughter. His life was his weapon, his presence a statement, his actions a shield. Outside the medical bay, Kale paused, looking through the floor-to-ceiling windows at the alien city. Obsidian towers rose into the sky, lit with glowing conduits and hovering vehicles. He had survived death, he had fought the impossible, and now he had a purpose in this strange world. Kale Arden, the human who had shattered chains, survived the execution platform, and faced the assassins, was no longer free, but he had been given a life. And that life carried meaning beyond mere survival. The arena, the crowd, the executioner, all had underestimated him. But Kale knew one truth. Humans were unpredictable, dangerous in ways no alien could anticipate, and capable of surviving the impossible. His new role as vassal guard was only the beginning. The real tests were yet to come. And somewhere in the spire, Kale prepared himself. Lyra's safety, Silvara's command, and the weight of life debt would guide him. Pain, exhaustion, and uncertainty were temporary. Survival, protection, and human resilience were eternal. Kale had been saved from death. Now, it was time to prove that survival was only the beginning. The recovery. Kale Arden sat in the medical bay, the hum of alien machinery all around him. The room was bright and sterile, filled with devices he could barely understand, yet each one worked with precise efficiency. His shoulder throbbed violently, a reminder of the execution platform and the brutal fight that had followed. Every muscle ached, but pain had become a companion he had learned to ignore. A Catherine medic approached, their six-fingered hands moving swiftly over his injuries. They examined the shattered resin cuffs remnants still embedded in his skin, the deep bruises across his torso, and the cuts from the assassin's blade. Kale clenched his teeth as they adjusted his dislocated shoulder. The pain was intense, sharp, and burning, yet he gritted through it. Humans survived, even when broken. "You are healing faster than expected," the medic observed, almost as if surprised. Primitive articulation, chaotic biology, but resilient. Kale didn't reply. He only flexed his fingers and tested his arms carefully. The left shoulder felt weak but functional. He would heal slowly, but it would not stop him. Survival demanded more than pain. It demanded control. The silver-stitched black uniform had been laid out for him. Kale changed, feeling the weight of the insignia on his shoulder, a symbol of his bond to Lady Silvara and her daughter. It was no longer clothing. It was a mark of duty. Every motion, every breath, reminded him of the life debt he owed, and of the child who had placed her trust in him. Lyra entered the room quietly, kneeling on the white fur rug that covered part of the floor. Her blue eyes studied him, curious and fearless. Kale's gaze softened. The child had survived the chaos, yet she had chosen him as her shield. Her trust was unspoken, yet absolute. Silvara followed, her silver armor replaced with a dark gray uniform. A sidearm rested at her hip, a reminder that even in recovery, danger could strike at any moment. She circled Kale, a predator assessing her claim. Every glance, every silent movement, tested him, measured him, weighed him. "You will adjust," she said, her voice calm but commanding. "Your body, your skills, and your mind must adapt. The life debt is sacred. Protection of my daughter is absolute." Kale nodded, his chest heaving slightly from the recent exertion. He could not yet move freely, yet he already felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. His body was broken, but his spirit was unyielding. Humans could endure, adapt, and overcome in ways aliens could not comprehend. Silvara stopped in front of him, their eyes meeting. Kale studied the intricate crystalline mechanics of her pupils as they analyzed him, assessing his wounds, his posture, his very presence. "You are my vassal guard," she stated again. The words carried authority, finality, and an unspoken promise of challenges to come. "Your life is bound to me. You will remain within 30 paces of me and my daughter at all times. You are a shield, nothing more." Kale's mind raced. The execution platform, the assassins, the arena, all of it was behind him. But the recovery, the healing, and the adjustment were just beginning. Every step, every motion, every decision would define his survival in this alien world. The Silver Guard moved in to assist, but Kale refused their help. Every motion was deliberate, every step a test of his strength. Pain flared through him, but he pushed through, walking steadily, controlling his body despite the injuries. This was his new battlefield, the quiet tension of survival, training, and preparation. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, the alien city sprawled beneath them. Obsidian towers reached toward the sky, energy conduits glowing faintly like veins in the body of a giant machine. Kale's gaze lingered on the horizon, knowing that the city was filled with enemies, challenges, and opportunities. He had survived death itself, but now he needed to survive life. A life bound to another, yet filled with purpose. Lyra approached him again, her small hand reaching out. Kale knelt, allowing her to touch his shoulder gently. The gesture was simple, yet it carried weight. She trusted him, relied on him, and in that trust, Kale found a new strength. He was not only fighting for survival, he was fighting for someone else. The medic finished their work and stepped back. Kale flexed, testing his strength. He could move, he could fight, and he could protect. Recovery was painful, slow, but possible. Pain was temporary. Duty was eternal. Silvara's gaze remained on him, calculating, silent, and heavy with expectation. Kale understood her assessment. She did not see a broken human. She saw a potential weapon, a shield, a protector capable of defying alien expectations. He had survived the impossible once. Now he would prove that he could endure, adapt, and excel in a world designed to break him. Kale stood fully upright, testing his balance. His shoulder burned, his muscles screamed, but he remained steady. Survival was not enough anymore. Protection, loyalty, and resilience were required. He had been broken, battered, and tested, but he had not fallen. The room was quiet except for the hum of alien machines. Lyra's gaze held him, and in her eyes, Kale saw the reason he could endure everything. She had survived the chaos of the arena. She had survived the assassins. She had survived fear itself. And she believed in him. Kale Arden, human and unyielding, had survived the execution platform. He had fought assassins. He had been claimed as a vassal guard. And now he would recover, adapt, and rise stronger than ever. The alien world had underestimated him, but it would not do so again. The vassal guard's first mission. The city sprawled beneath the towering obsidian spires, glowing with alien energy lines that pulsed like the heartbeat of a living machine. Kale Arden, fully recovered but still bearing the marks of his battle, stood beside Lady Silvara. Lyra's small hand rested against his arm, a silent reminder of the life debt he carried. "This will be your first assignment," Silvara said, her voice calm but sharp, slicing through the hum of the command spire. Her silver eyes glinted with determination. A faction of rebels has infiltrated the northern sector. Your task is simple. Protect my daughter and ensure the city's stability. You will follow my orders without question. Kale nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle heavily on his shoulders. The vassal guard role was no longer abstract. It was real, and the city, with all its alien dangers, was now his battlefield. Lyra, ever curious and brave, tugged at his uniform. Are you going to fight them, Kale? Her voice was small but filled with expectation. Yes, Kale replied simply, but I'll make sure you're safe. The corridors of the spire were silent as Kale and Silvara moved. The Silver Guard flanked them, weapons raised, eyes sharp. Kale's senses were heightened, his human instincts razor-sharp. Every shadow could hide a threat, every corner a potential ambush. Survival was no longer a matter of escaping death. It was about vigilance, strategy, and protecting the child he had sworn to guard. Outside, the city was alive. Alien vehicles moved in synchronized patterns above the glowing streets. Kale noticed the faint shimmer of cloaking fields, the telltale signs of stealth units, perhaps rebels or mercenaries. His tactical mind, honed by endless training and impossible circumstances, began to calculate distances, escape routes, and potential threats. Suddenly, a warning alarm echoed through the spire. Red lights pulsed along the walls. The northern sector was under attack. Kale felt a familiar rush of adrenaline. His body remembered the execution platform, the assassin, the arena, but now he was armed with purpose and he was ready. Silvara moved with precision, her hand raised to signal the guards. Kale stayed close to Lyra, his eyes scanning, every nerve alert. They entered the command lift, descending rapidly toward the northern sector. As they emerged, chaos greeted them. Alien rebels had breached the perimeter, and the city guards were struggling to hold them back. Kale's mind moved faster than thought. He assessed the threats, 3 units advancing from the left, 2 from the right, and a potential leader hidden among the chaos. He stepped forward, positioning himself between Lyra and the approaching enemies. His black uniform and insignia marked him as part of Silvara's command, but his human presence was something else entirely. The rebels hesitated, sensing the raw will and unpredictability emanating from him. The first attack came swiftly. A rebel lunged at Kale with a plasma blade. Instinct took over. He sidestepped, grabbed the attacker's wrist, and twisted with controlled force, disarming the alien in one fluid motion. The enemy fell to the ground, stunned by the sheer efficiency of the human's counterattack. Lyra clutched his arm, but Kale remained focused. Each movement was precise, calculated, and brutal in its effectiveness. Another attacker advanced, and Kale met them with the same relentless force. His body a weapon honed by survival, pain, and determination. The rebels were skilled, but Kale was unpredictable. He used their own attacks against them, flipping one over his shoulder, deflecting another with an armored forearm, and incapacitating 2 more with precise strikes. Each move showcased human adaptability, fast, relentless, and unorthodox. Silvara's voice carried over the comms, guiding him strategically. Kale, cover the rear. Lyra stays with me. He moved seamlessly, positioning himself between Lyra and the remaining attackers. His shoulder burned, but he ignored the pain. Humans endured. They adapted. They survived. And Kale Arden was living proof. Within minutes, the rebels were neutralized, retreating in disarray. The northern sector was secured. The city guards, inspired by the humans' courage, regained control and pushed the intruders back. Lyra looked up at Kale, her small face shining with admiration. You saved everyone, she whispered. Kale knelt, bringing himself to her eye level. I only did what I had to, he said. Your safety comes first. Always. Silvara approached, her expression a mix of approval and calculation. You performed well, she said. This was more than survival. You have proven your worth. A human can be more than a shield. They can be a force. Kale straightened, the city below sprawling endlessly. The life debt had bound him, but purpose had claimed him. His survival was not just for himself anymore, it was for Lyra, for Silvara, and for proving that humans, underestimated and fragile in appearance, could endure and dominate in ways no alien expected. The vassal guard had faced execution, assassins, and chaos, and now he had completed his first mission. The world was larger, the challenges greater, but Cale Arden was ready. The city lights shimmered beneath him, and Cale knew one undeniable truth. Humans survived the impossible. Humans adapted. Humans endured. And he, a single human among thousands of alien eyes, had proven it.